Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, I realize it's difficult when you're on the losing side of every issue and the truth about your policies are not popular with the American people, but I hope you can also appreciate that it's our job to exercise oversight on behalf of Americans and expose the harmful impact of these policies. So your succinct and truthful answers would be most appreciated. In your testimony, Mr. Secretary, you said that you were calling for more COVID funding for schools. Why should we do this when schools are requesting more time to spend the previously allocated funds, and some are even spending them on things like football fields and weight rooms?
With regard to American Rescue Plan use of funds, I can tell you I'm proud of what I've seen when I visited the 32 states. Schools were able to reopen with better ventilation systems. I visited White Plains, New York, and their school was able to open as quickly as they did.
Okay, well, I'm not claiming my time. I'm not asking what they might have used it for. I'm saying, why in the world would we give them more money when they haven't spent the money that's already been allocated? And some of them are using for things that obviously have nothing to do with the virus situation. You know, it doesn't cost anything to stop doing the things that harmed our children over these past 2 years. Switching to student loans for a moment, the Biden administration's moratorium on student loans has already cost taxpayers some $100 billion before any ill-conceived effort this fall in a desperate attempt to buy votes that we might try to forgive student loans this fall. Who do you think should pay a person's student loan? Who should that debt be transferred to?
Congressman, if there are cases where you think money is not being used, please work with our team, because we want to make sure that we're following up.
Who do you think should pay a person's student loan if they don't want to pay it, or who should that debt be transferred to?
I think our loan forgiveness work this year is something that has helped many Americans.
I want you to answer me specifically. Who do you think should pay a person's student loan if they don't want to pay it, or they can't pay it, or they just wish they didn't have it? And who should that debt be transferred to?
I'm not sure. The person who took out the loan should be paying the loan. If they weren't misled,
the person who took out the loan should pay the loan.
Right.
Okay, so you agree we shouldn't have somebody who didn't go to college shouldn't have to pay someone else's student loan. Is that correct?
I think I know where you're going with this, and what I would want to say to that is there was poor oversight.
Okay, so do you think someone who didn't go to college should be forced through their taxes to pay somebody else's student loan?
There was poor oversight, and I believe.
Do you think somebody who didn't go to college should be forced to pay somebody else's student loan? Don't tell them about oversight. You think somebody who didn't go to college should be forced to pay somebody else's student loan?
I see where you're going with the question.
How about somebody who worked their way through school so they wouldn't have student loans? Should they have to pay somebody else's student loan?
The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program.
Okay, how about somebody who has already paid off their student loan? They just doubled down, they worked hard, they worked 2 or 3 jobs, they paid off their student loan. I mean, you do know where the money comes from, right? You do know the money's from the American people. You realize government has no money, right? So you cannot forgive student loans. We like to use that term. You realize that it's just transferred to somebody else. So my question is, who should it be transferred to, or who should it be forced to pay for that? Especially when 60% of these student loan balances are held by high income earners who went to grad school and so forth. There's a disproportionate impact towards high income earners if we forgive all student loans. So who should have to pay that?
So the bipartisan public service loan forgiveness is an example of a loan forgiveness program that was bipartisan passed and was mismanaged.
Okay, well, thank you. That's what I was referring to earlier. Just would like a succinct answer on the impact of this administration's policies. And I've got a Federal Student Loan Integrity Act that I've sponsored along with Jim Banks, who's on this committee, that would prohibit you from extending the moratorium on student loan repayments, at least, let alone forgiving. School choice. You said today that you support school choice. You said that during someone else's earlier question, and that parents should be able to decide where their kids go to school. Will you help us advocate for Congress to pass school choice legislation?
I don't push for specific legislation. I ask that you work in collaboration.
So do you support legislation that would support school choice? For example, I've got HR 3704, the Choice Act, which would allow struggling families the choice of where their education dollars go. They'd follow their children to the school or educational opportunity of their choice, or a 529 savings account. Are you in favor of such things?
I'm in favor of making sure public schools have access to adequate funding so that all students have an option, including students.
Another question for you, if I may.
Previous question.
Have you gotten an update from regarding Attorney General Garland's memo about going after school parents? Have you got an update on that? We're having trouble getting answers on what the status of that review is. Have you got an update on that?
I support choice, but I also don't support choice.
Have you gotten an update on the targeting of school parents based on the October 4 memo from AG Garland?
My staff might have received information on that. I have not, but I'd be happy to have my team reach out to you if you have questions about the rollout of that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you.